Hey, how's it going? My name is Chris Down. Welcome to my channel. Today, what we're going to be talking about is your Google Ads budget. How much should you be investing? How much should you be spending on Google Ads? And where should you be to really be competitive in the marketplace? And what I'm going to be talking about mainly today is more lead generation type stuff. So this is going to be mainly focused on like local businesses doing lead gen. So this can apply to e-commerce, but you'll probably have to adjust the numbers a little bit based on what you're selling if you are doing e-commerce. But today we're going to be focusing mainly on lead gen. And there's a couple of ways that I like to put a budget together. And it really kind of depends on if I'm working with the client, what the client is looking for. So option number one, if the client doesn't really know how many leads they want to get, I'll just look at the cost per click data in that particular market they're in, and I'll calculate it from there. Option two, I'm going to look at how many leads that particular client wants to generate every month, and then sort of reverse engineer the numbers based on the cost per click and the competition and all that kind of stuff. And we will get into that today. So a couple of really quick disclaimers before I get into it. These numbers are not intended to be like exact budget numbers, but they're really just kind of like where should you start. And for me, when it comes to budgeting, I like to try and keep it as realistic as possible so that people, come into it really with like a realistic sense of what they're actually going to be spending and what they're going to have to invest. I try to, in a sense, like not sugarcoat those numbers and kind of be like, oh, you can start at $5 a day, because sometimes with Google, you don't want to start low depending on the competition in your market. So I'm trying to keep it as realistic as possible for this video. But if you don't have that budget, there are a couple of options. You can kind of take that daily budget and then scale it down to fewer days of the week. So let's say instead of 5 days, you advertise 3 days out of the week to start until you can then afford 5 or 6 or 7 days of the week. Alternatively, it could honestly just be something where Google Ads might not be the right thing right now. If you have like a $300 a month budget and the cost per click in your market is really high, it honestly might make more sense to try other platforms like Facebook until you have that budget to compete in that marketplace. And yeah, that's like this last little point here. The key is like you want to be competitive in your market, and if you are pricing yourself, if you're kind of like bidding too low, you don't have enough budget, the other people in your market are just going to outbid you and kind of outrank you in search, and you're just not going to get any leads. So those are a couple of quick points before we get into it. But the first option here is it's kind of the simpler way, but it's going to be a little less kind of accurate, but it just gives you a really quick rough estimate on what somebody should probably look at as a starting budget. But pretty much what you're going to want to do is you want to go to the keyword planner, and I'm going to kind of switch over and show you what I'm talking about in a minute. You're going to want to go to the keyword planner or use a Chrome extension like Keywords Everywhere. This right here, you just kind of look for it in the extension store, I guess you could say, for Google. They have a paid option where it'll give you search volume and cost per click and everything like that. But ideally, just go to the keyword planner. Either or, it works as long as you can get some rough cost per click data. Then you want to look at that average cost per click for the keywords you want to bid on in your market. So you want to make sure you define where you're actually going to be running the campaigns, like the actual location. And then you want to take that average cost per click and then multiply it by 100, or roughly like 4 to 5 clicks a day. Because if you take 100 clicks a month and let's say you convert 20% of those clicks into leads, then you should be looking at roughly about like 1 lead a day. So what this will look like is I have something already set up over here, and pretty much what I did, just so I can kind of give you a sense of what I did here, I set the locations to pretty much all of northern New Jersey. So really wherever either you need to run a campaign or your client needs to run a campaign, set it to that county or that city or whatever. I just did northern New Jersey to keep it really simple here. And then what you want to do is when you're looking for the keywords, make sure you put in sort of like the root keyword that you're looking for. I just did fencing companies for this example. So whatever your niche or market is, drop your root keywords in here. And then what we're going to want to do is we want to look down here. And what I usually do is I try to look at the highest intent keywords, things like this, fence company near me, fence installation near me, fencing contractors near me. And I usually like to look at these top of page bids in the high range. So you have $8.98, $8.97. This one is $11.33. And then what I what I think is kind of a better approach here, because I've always found that these are usually a little bit inaccurate. Most of the time, I find that these are kind of low, especially somewhere like northern New Jersey where there's a lot of competition. So I'll usually look at these numbers, probably average them together, and maybe add a couple dollars onto it. So in this case, I would really, to be like very, very safe, say like $13-14 should be like the average kind of estimate you're looking at. For this particular example, I'll just go ahead and say $13 a click for this particular market, competition, things like that. Because I've had a lot of scenarios where I've started running a campaign and went based off of these numbers, and it was like $7, $8, $9 a click, but the clicks end up being like 13 or 14 bucks. So this will kind of give you a rough estimate. It's kind of impossible without running a campaign to get the actual data. So get a rough estimate. For this example, I'm just going to say it's $13 per click. So pretty much what we're going to do based on that estimation formula from the last slide is I want to take $13 a click, multiply that by 100. You should roughly look at about $1,300 a month. And you can adjust that up or down based on what your budget is, but that would be something that I would recommend somebody as like a starting point for that particular market. And let me just switch back over here. Oh, not there yet. But yeah, like as I mentioned before, this is really, it's just kind of get to like a quicker, rough estimate for like where you want to start your budget. You want to make sure you're competitive in that market. And you want to budget things so that you actually get momentum going for either like your business or your client's business. Because if you're just not getting enough lead flow, you're just not going to see the results. You know, if you're in that market and you're spending, $500 a month, for example, and it ends up being $13 a click, you're only going to get 38 clicks a month. Even if you convert 20% of those clicks into leads, that's only 7 to 8 leads a month. And that's just, you're just not going to see momentum for your business or your client's business if you're kind of like pricing it too low. Because if you're getting, if you're getting 4 to 5 clicks a day, ideally you should be getting at least like 1 lead a day. If you're running it 5 days a week, which should translate into actually getting some jobs in, getting some revenue coming in from the campaign and actually seeing a return from it, as opposed to just kind of like dragging things out and having things taking too long to actually get momentum and revenue coming in from the campaign. So there's a little note here. There's gray area with this method. And, you're going to have to tweak it based on the niche that you're in. Some niches convert higher, some niches convert lower. But at like a safe estimate would be like 20% of those clicks turn into leads. So that's option one. Little bit kind of like rough. It's more for like a really quick estimate kind of thing. Option two is a little bit more accurate, but it's a bit more complicated. The math, it's not that difficult really, but it adds a couple extra steps, but it is a bit more accurate. So essentially what you want to do for this method is figure out the number of leads you want to generate on a monthly basis, and then figure out the rough number of clicks that you'll need to get to hit that goal. And essentially you just reverse engineer from there. So let's say you want to generate 30 leads in a month. So you then have to say like, how many clicks do I need to get to generate 30 leads? So if my minimum kind of like target for conversion rate is 20%, what that means is essentially 1 in 5 clicks is going to turn into a lead. So if I say I want 30 leads times 5 clicks per lead, it's about 150 clicks a month. So if I take that number of clicks and then multiply it by that average CPC for the keywords in my market, that should give me a rough starting point of what I should shoot for. So if we go back to this example, let's just keep this at like $13 to keep this simple. So if I go with that method from before, let me just switch back to those numbers here. If I go with that method before, we want to get about 150 clicks a month to get roughly 30 leads. 150 clicks times about $13 per click, roughly about $19.50. I would say if they want to get 30 leads a month, budget for roughly like $2,000 a month if it's that market. Obviously, depending on the competition in your market, that number could be totally different. There could be some markets where you can do that for $1,500 a month. There could also be markets where it might be $2,500 a month. So it really, that's why it's really important to kind of look at your own particular market, figure out where the competition is at, figure out where the cost per click is at, and then sort of reverse engineer all that data. So, once a campaign is dialed in at $2,000 a month, you should be seeing about like 30 leads a month. So that's roughly how I would approach it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. this is usually how, if I'm talking to a client, how I would sort of roughly estimate what they should invest. And again, the key here is making sure that we're staying competitive in the market. If we're not paying enough, we're just not going to see the results from Google. And, your competition will outbid you and outrank you, and you're just not going to see the number of leads that you want to get. So that's it for this video. I hope that was helpful. I hope that kind of gave you some good guidelines for when you're looking at kind of budgeting things out for your campaigns. So I appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy this video, if you want to see more videos like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will try to drop some more videos on here to kind of help you out. And if there's anything you are looking for, make sure you drop it in the comments below, and I'll make sure to get to that and create some videos around those things as well. So again, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.